Hi, folks. Ron Medikevich here. Welcome. Absolute welcome. I'm glad we're finally able to get together and do the ham radio technician class licensing. What I wanted to do was I wanted to take a moment and I wanted to give you a little bit of an orientation before we get the course started. Not only this, what I'm also going to do is I'm also going to follow this up with a short video on the best Zoom tips, and I'll be sending out a course outline and schedule later today. So let's get started here. And let's talk about a couple of things here. This is very short. If you haven't already looked at the two videos here that I gave you the links to in the intro email, please do that. The first one is from the Radio Society of Great Britain, the RSGB, and the second is from the American Radio Relay League. These are overviews of what amateur radio actually is. The one from RSGB is particularly good because it's a little animated and it's very, very descriptive. The second video fills in the gaps that the RSGB video does not. So these are two very good ones. As we know, ham radio is non-commercial, non-broadcast. There's no music, no business conducted, no monetary compensation, and there are no one-way transmissions. You're always communicating with someone else. And you can listen to anything without a license. The only thing you can't listen to is the cell band. You can't do that anyway, because first of all, it's digital, you can't receive it. And secondly, the radios in this country have that band blocked, so you cannot listen to it. But you don't need a license to listen to anything. I get this question all the time. Now, you do need a license to actually transmit, because you're emitting a signal over the air that can interfere with other services, especially first responders, critical services, government, aircraft, etc. So the reason that we have a license that's required is that the Federal Communications Commission is transferring the responsibility to us as amateur radio operators to understand what it means to have a good, clean signal and not be interfering with critical services, stay within our power limits, and operate properly. So that's why, of course, why we're here. That's the whole reason behind this. We know that there are three license classes. We're going, of course, for the technician class, which gives us generally local privileges. We'll expand on that as we get into the course, on what are known as the VHF and the UHF frequency, parts of the frequency spectrum. And in using these with our tech class license, we're usually operating through what are known as repeaters and doing simplex, just like the old-fashioned walkie-talkies where you're talking to another person or a group of people. The next class of license up, which I hope we'll all have by the end of the year, is the general class, which gives us worldwide capability on shortwave. And of course, amateur extra is the top class, and that gives you all privileges on all amateur bands. Now, a little bit about the test. The test itself consists of 35 multiple choice questions, A through D. And the questions are taken relatively randomly from a pool of 450 questions. This question pool is public domain. It is out there, published for accessed by anyone, including us. So here is one link right here where you can actually look at the questions from which your 35 question test will be pulled. Every 4 years, this question pool is revised by the Federal Communications Commission. The current question pool, we're at the end of the useful period for it. It's going to expire at the end of June this year, June 30th. So you have to make sure that you take and pass your test by mid-June. Hopefully we'll all be licensed by mid-April at the very latest. This course will cover all the material that is on the current exam that will expire in June. So that means I have to rewrite the course for the next session, which is not a problem. The test is administered by certified and registered volunteer examiners. I happen to be one of them. And it's administered at uh, amateur radio club meetings at Hamfest, which are like big ham radio flea markets. We'll talk more about those. Those are a lot of fun. By volunteer examiner groups, or they're actually, because of COVID, the tests have started to be offered online. What I'd really recommend is that you do it face to face. That's the best bet. The main objective, and you'll hear me mention this a couple times, the objective is to find a location and schedule the exam before you finish this mini course. You want to have your sights set on a date and on a place. As you go through the course and all the way up until the time that you're going to take the test, you want to make sure that you practice, practice, and practice. What do I mean by that? There are many free online sites out there where you can do mock exams. You can take these and find out how well you know the material. These are two links right here, Ham Class and Ham Radio Prep, that are free. Go on here and you can actually take a mock 35 question exam. They're the same questions out of the pool, so you may actually be asked some of these questions in the real exam. Now, how to find an exam location. What you do is you go here to the ARRL, where it says find an amateur radio license exam session. Click on that and walk through the zip code, location, and so on, and you'll be able to find out where the next exams are in your particular area. If you still prefer to do it online, you can look up a VE group on this using this particular link here, and they will tell you where the online sessions are. Again, I would really recommend that you try to do face-to-face. It is a lot easier. Last important point on this page, on this slide, what to bring to the exam session and what to do beforehand. What you will need to do is you will need to have what's known as an FCC Federal Registration Number, or FRN. That's very important. And this link here will tell you how to get that on the FCC website. You also will need things like 2 forms of ID and probably a sitting fee. For the group that I'm a VE member of, for the 2 groups, it's $14 to sit for the exam. What we do in the exam is if you pass the technician class, we will automatically allow you to take the general exam. Even though you may not have studied for it, who knows? You never know. So at least you'll have experience in taking the general if you pass the technician class. So if you pass the general at the same time, you get 2 tests for the price of 1. Finally, about this particular mini course, we used to do this online at the college where I taught. Now we've migrated it. I've migrated it online. We'll be using the same materials. The ARRL licensing manual, 4th edition. Make sure it's the 4th edition. This is what we'll be using at the very beginning. This is a link to the Amazon site here. They usually come within a day. And I would highly recommend that you use this, because this has the background material for all the slides and the presentations that we'll be doing. I will send an outline and a schedule later, either later today or tomorrow. And what the course material actually consists of is basically some technical stuff, electrical and basic electrical and radio theory and practice. Rules and regulations, that's the most important part. It's a little on the dry side, but it's a rite of passage we've got to know. We've got to know where to operate, where to tune our radios, where we can't tune the radios, what power to use, and so on and so forth, what best practices are. That's the legal stuff. That's why we have the license. And of course, operating procedures. How do we interface with other operators? What's the protocol? How often do we need to identify with our call signs? What powers can we use, and so on and so forth. There's basically 9 elements to the exam. but they're all grouped into these 3 categories. The lessons will comprise a series of videos. I'll make them as short as possible, but as informative as possible. We'll have live sessions. I'll be offering a morning session and an evening session. Each day they'll be identical, and then the next day we'll move on to another element. Then the next day after that, another element. So it should go on for about a good couple weeks, 2, maybe 3 weeks at the most. Couple days, 3 days a week, we'll play it by ear. Again, as I said earlier, it's important to take the exam right after the mini course while this material is fresh in your mind, especially the rules and regs. Practicing. When you start to get 85 to 90% on the practice exams, this is a good indicator that you're ready to take the real deal. The real tests are exactly like the practice tests. So getting about a 90% on the practice test, you're going to pretty much be assured that you're going to get your call letters. And you're going to pass the tech exam, you're going to get your call letters. In the meantime, let's enjoy the mini course, and welcome to ham radio. What I'll be doing is I'll be sending another video out, and I will be explaining the best Zoom techniques to use to make sure that we're ready for the very first session. So we're not spending time at the very beginning of the first session trying to get everybody's Zoom running. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you shortly.